I love spending my birthday like this. It's wonderful.
Happy birthday, Chelsea.
Thank you, Tinx.
Today is your 50th birthday.
Hold on, let me just show my body off.
You look so good, I can't believe it. You look fantastic.
Oh, thank you. I work hard at it.
What does being 50 mean to you?
What does it mean to me? It means like I feel really empowered. I feel like a woman. I really feel like I've come into my own in a way that is grounded, yet confident, caring, and empathetic, and softer than I had been in my earlier years, but tough as nails. I know I can pretty much handle fucking anything.
Hell yeah.
And I'm grateful. I'm really, really grateful that all of you are here tonight. So thank you.
Well, I think I speak for everyone when I say we all feel lucky to be here with you tonight. So thank you for sharing your birthday with us, because that's pretty special. How are you the same person that you always were, and how have you changed, like reflecting back on your years?
I think, which is how I start the book, is like a child. And I think when I was thinking about writing this book and what I wanted to say, I was thinking a lot about how I was as a child, how I was so clearly the personality that I have. Like, before the world shits on you and your heart gets broken, when you're a child, I really believe that's the essence of who we all really are. That is your true personality. And as you go through life, you can kind of fall off the track, you know? You kind of get distracted or you get hurt, and so many things can happen to change who you are, and you lose your way. And then it's kind of up to you to go, wait a second, is this the person that I wanted to become? Like, is this the person I had dreamt of becoming when I was a little girl? Is this what I had envisioned? And it's kind of up to you when you fall off that track to get back on that track. So I've kept, I think, the best parts of my personality and discarded the parts of my personality that were hurtful to others and hurtful to myself. Through therapy, I had the gift of self-awareness. So, and it remains in the palm of my hand, my self-awareness. And I look at it every fucking day, and I'm like, what are you doing? And is this okay? And, you know, I slip up, of course, but now I understand who I am.
I love that. What excites What excites you most about 50?
I feel pretty like firmly planted. My feet feel very firmly planted in the ground. I feel like I've been through so many different scenarios and experiences that I don't feel like you can push me over, you know? Like nothing's gonna knock me over. I feel solid, and that's exciting. I love my freedom. That's exciting. I love men. I'm excited. I'm excited that I'm not married, you know? Like, I feel like I got through the area of life where I may have gotten married and I may have had kids, and that's great for anyone who wants that, but that was never for me, and so I'm glad I didn't slip up.
Right. Yes. You came through that period of your life unscathed.
Yes, it's like I got through the birth canal and now I'm free. I can't get pregnant, and if I got married, who gives a shit at this point, you know?
Truly, truly. Okay, what's one thing that you would tell your 25-year-old self?
Hold on tight, it's gonna be a bumpy ride, and everything you ever dreamed about was gonna come true.
I love that. You talk a lot about growing, and you are so self-aware. What is one thing that held you back from growing, or what was one challenge with all this like self-growth? What was like the most difficult part in all that?
Probably my temper. Like, I had a really fiery temper. I mean, I still do. I still want to go off on people that are stupid and be, you know, like it's a natural, when I'm at the airport and people aren't moving and they're looking at signs, like I want to hit someone, you know? I want to be like, what? You're at a fucking airport. Like, aren't you trying to get somewhere? Like, move. I get very, I'm reactive in that way, and that has not been a strong, that works in certain respects, but as a lifestyle and as a personality, I don't want to be treating people like that. I want to have sympathy for stupid people, you know? I want to be like, oh, that's so sad that he's so stupid, you know, that he doesn't know he's at an airport.
Oh my God. Okay, that's very good, yes. Okay, what has been the biggest surprise about getting older, and also what was your favorite decade so far?
Great question. I think the biggest surprise about getting older is that I'm where I wanted to be when I was 20. Like, I look the way I wanted to look, I have the success that I was eager to get, and I have the friends and the family that I always was wondering, you know, what my life would look like. Like, I think you're so hungry in your 20s and 30s to strive to be this, like, I want to look like this, and I want to have this lifestyle, and it was almost like my life didn't begin until I had success. Like, I wanted to be successful, and then it would begin. But now, I would never have thought at age 50 I would be this vibrant and happy and alive. I would think, oh, I'm winding down. You know, when I was 20, I thought 50 was old, and now I'm 50, I'm like, no, I'm going, you know?
I love that.
I'm still going hard.
Yeah. So maybe this will be your favorite decade.
Yeah, this might be my favorite decade. I mean, what was my favorite decade? I mean, I would have to say yes, that I'm going into it.
I love that. That's
yeah.
Great. So great. So much to look forward to always. What is I wrote this question because I selfishly do want your advice and I want to know what you would say. What's a message that you want to share with women about aging? Because I feel like we all absorb so much and we have these negative connotations. To your point, you know, you had thoughts about what it might be like. What is a message that you can share with women about aging?
To lean into yourself. Like, listen, we all have insecurities and we're all self-conscious and we all go through times where we don't feel like our best selves. But I think the most important thing to know is, like, everything is temporary. Every mood, every high, every low, nothing lasts forever. Around the corner, there's always better news, and there's always bad news. And when you can go through it even-handedly, instead of reacting to the highs and lows in the ways I was reacting in my 20s and 30s, I think you really appreciate how old you are, how far you've come, and to lean into the age of it. Like, I would never lie about my age. I mean, I can't. It's pretty public. So maybe if I couldn't, I would, but I doubt it. I think you have to lean into aging. And yeah, I'm doing plenty of shit here and there and everywhere. I don't want to pretend that I'm not. I am. I'm from LA, okay? That's what we're doing. But lean into it in a natural way, like, and also embrace the fact that getting older is badass. Like, the things that you can still do when you get older and wiser, and the experience you have is so much more valuable and powerful as an older person than it was when I was 30 years old.
Right, absolutely. Okay, so we are here to talk about your fabulous new book, I'll Have What She's Having, and it's great. I've read it. It's so good. We all know that the title comes from the famous line from When Harry Met Sally. What does the line mean to you, and why did you use it for the title of the book?
Okay, well, my editor, Whitney Frick, who's in the audience tonight, she came up with that title. She came up with that title after she read the book. We were trying to bounce around titles. I've come up with, I think, every title of each book I've written. And this was the first time somebody else did. And when she said, I'll have what she's having, I'm like, I can't call my own book, I'll have what she's having. You know, that's a little self-aggrandizing. Like, I want what I have. I mean, but she said no, and then we sent it to my manager and a couple of other women in my life, and they were like, that's exactly what this book is. I'll have what she's having, and it doesn't mean you need to get what I have. It means the spirit, I think, of the book is to get after it, to really, really, truly be the person that you want to become, the person that you dreamt about becoming, and to be unapologetic about it. If you want to live a non-traditional life and you want to, I don't want to define myself by being, you know, someone's wife or a mother, and so many people telling me that that is where my value comes from. to not listen to that, to really know deep down in your heart what your choices are and if they're right for you. And thank God I've never been a mother. You know, I was right. I was right. And everyone here know, like, you know, we all know what we're good at and what we're not good at, and sometimes we're in denial about that. And I would urge everyone to always really consider what your strengths and weaknesses are. My weaknesses are patience, children, and men. That's where I lose my patience. So that is not my area of strength. So I focus on the things I am good at, which is talking, partying, you know.
Skiing.
Working hard, I can do that. I can ski hard. What's that? Medicating other people, thank you, thank you. I'm a farm-to-table gynecologist, thank you very much.
Oh, people are saying that this is your most vulnerable and introspective book yet, and you've written 7 books. What was different about this one, and why do you think people are saying it's so reflective and honest? I mean, I know because I've read it, but you know, did you set out to write such an honest and reflective book?
Well, the book came about, I was dating Joe Coy, and I had a conversation with my editor, Whitney Frick, who said, we want you to write a book about falling in love, because it was a very public love affair, and we were demonstrative, and it was all over Instagram, and people loved it and were so supportive of our relationship that it was really infectious, and it made me so happy to see people so happy and rooting for us that I was like, yes, like who would expect me to write a book about falling in love? And I thought that was such a sweet idea, and then we broke up. And I was like, whoopsie doodle, you know? Now what? And Whitney and I spoke, and she said, what about writing a book about your breakup? Because this was the first time I had broken up with a person where I acted gracefully, with dignity. There was no, you know, it wasn't ugly. It wasn't publicly known what happened. And I didn't air my dirty laundry, which was a sign of growth and maturity. And I was basking in the glow of maturity. I was like, whoa, look at me, you know? Maybe I should tell people how to break up. And then I thought, I can't write a book about breaking up. Like, that's just not my personality. I'm on the upswing, not the downswing. So then I thought, okay, let's just take a beat. And Whitney said, take a beat and think about, you know, what it is you want to say. And if you have anything to say, and if not, we won't do it. And so I did. I took a few months, and I just really reflected seriously about what it means to be a woman. Like, what it means to be a sister to other women, and not just to women, to other men, and to other people who feel unseen. Like, what does it mean to show up in huge ways in your life for others, and while remaining true to the person you are, and getting so clear-headed about who you are that you are able to impact so many people's lives in a positive way. And I thought that message was powerful, but I didn't really know how to kind of crystallize all that. So I just started writing like things that impacted me, people who impacted me in my life, and people that I've impacted. And I thought about those stories, and I was like, oh, these are important things to share with other women. Like, I think we are experiencing what female sisterhood really means right now. And it is so important to not have it be a zero-sum game where women are competing with each other. All ships rise with the tide, you know? So that's something that is very important to me, to always show up for women, because I understand the way that we've grown up thinking, oh my God, there's only room for a couple of us. And I think what's happening in the world right now, politically, everything, women are so powerful, it is freaking everybody the fuck out.
Yeah.
And our togetherness and our support of one another is freaking everyone out. And that's why I think we're in the situation we are. But I'm not worried about it, because I know how powerful women are, and I know how powerful sisterhood is. And I know that this isn't a great time right now, but I'm very optimistic about the future, because we're not going anywhere.
Hell yeah. Absolutely. Absolutely. Speaking of sisterhood,
I'm president. I couldn't survive on that salary. President.
I don't think the White House is nice enough for you. You wouldn't like it.
No,
You have to
I
completely...
find the White House to be very tacky.
Yeah. Speaking of sisterhood, there's one of my favorite stories in the book is when Jane Fonda invited you over for dinner and confronted you about your behavior. How did you feel in that moment, and how did it shape your outlook moving forward?
Well, Jane Fonda, yes, I tell this story in the book. I was at one of her parties, and she basically summoned me to her house. She sent me an email one day and was like, Chelsea, I'd like to talk to you at my house. And I was like, oh, okay. Obviously, I have to go. You know, it's Jane Fonda. And I was like, great, you know, when? And she's like, tonight. I'm like, oh, okay. And I remember going over there kind of knowing something was up. And when she sat down and talked to me, I remember her chef or someone who was working at her house came and asked me if I wanted a martini, and I was like, no, I'm just gonna be sober for this interaction. I don't want any trouble. And then she kind of laid it on. She goes, you're probably wondering why I asked you over here. You know, you were really badly behaved at a party. At the last party you were at, and you had a real dark cloud around you. You insulted many people, and I just don't understand why you would even have come out that night. I don't know what drugs you were on. And I remember looking at her being like, oh my God, like so mortified, you know? It's so mortifying to have a hero of yours tell you you're a loser. But I had just started therapy, and I was 40 years old. I had just been to therapy maybe like 3 times, enough times to understand and learn that you can't be defensive defensive is wrong. Like if you're arguing about your own behavior, you're wrong. Like if you're right, you don't have to argue, you know? Like you only argue if you're wrong. You only raise your voice and lose your temper when you're defensive. And that's not how I could have handled that situation. And I knew not to handle it that way. So I just looked at her and I wanted to be like, no, but I didn't. I was like, shut up, just listen to Jane Fonda. And the overarching theme of that was, even in my mortification in that moment, I knew that this was sisterhood, that she loved me because she took the time to have this conversation, which was a difficult conversation to have, when she could have just blown me off and never spoken to me again. She didn't have to do that. Mm-hmm. And I knew that day when she said that to me, I was like, I want to be like that. I want to be that kind of woman that tells another woman the truth instead of skirting or, you know, shirking away from a difficult conversation.
Yeah, that's such an important lesson. So switching gears a little bit, there are a hilarious couple of stories at the beginning of the book about you when you were little. You know, you had this lemonade stand, you spiked the lemonade to make more money. There's a story about, you know, when you were lying about you did lie about your age when you were babysitting, you know?
Yes, that's true.
You know, in your youth, you did lie.
Right.
Before you were famous, when you
But I lied in the
it.
opposite direction.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it doesn't count. But what stuck out to me was like, you've always been, Chelsea, like you've always had this crazy work ethic. Talk to us a little bit about your work ethic. You tour nonstop. You have a Netflix special coming out. You have a podcast. You have a Vegas residency. You've written 1 million books. I mean, what's the deal? Why do you work so hard?
Because I have a husband to support. No, I'm just kidding. No. I don't know. I'm a hustler. I like working. I like what it gives me. I like the lifestyle it provides me, and I love having an impact over people. I love when people tell me that they grew up with me, or that I got them through a tough time, or that they look up to me, or they're inspired by me. Like when someone says, I'm gonna write a book because of your book. You know, that's how I felt when I read David Sedaris' book. I was like, oh, you can write books with essays that really have nothing to do with one another? I was like, I could do that. You know, just tell funny stories, I could do it. But I do really like to work, and I'm proud of my work ethic because people are always surprised whenever I work with anyone, they're like, oh my God, you're such a hard worker. And to me, that's like the best compliment you could ever give me. I want to be a hard worker. I think there's nothing more impressive. I'm not a workaholic. I mean, I have as much fun as I do when I work, you know? I actually, the two things are together. Like, you know, work is fun. And it's hard, but I think it sets a really important example also just for the other women in my life and women everywhere. Like, this is kind of a man's life, you know? Like, now we're living in a world where women can do these things, but like when I grew up, there weren't a lot of women doing these things. So it was important to me to kind of be the guy, so to speak. You know, I wanted to be like a woman who could accomplish those things. And so I've always been, I'm not very competitive with other people, but I'm very, very hard on myself, which is something I can work on. And I'm very competitive with myself. Like, you can do that better. You can do that better. You can ski better. You can write better. You know, you can do this. So I think that's the reason I work so hard. And, you know, obviously I like money. I'm not going to pretend I don't. I like a lifestyle. Yeah.
I love the story in the book about bombing at the Montreal Comedy Festival. Just a few days after that terrible show, you got a TV deal, and you write, "So often we are ready to give up or throw in the towel when, right around the corner, there is a pocket of sunshine we hadn't known was headed straight for us. Even in my lowest moments, I keep my head geared toward the sky because I'm no longer in the business of missing rainbows." I love that idea. Tell us about some rainbows that you've made sure not to miss, or just more about that idea and like how you live by that principle.
A few weeks ago, I got a shoulder infection, and I had to get shoulder surgery. I really didn't have time for that. And I came back from Whistler, which is where I like to spend my winters because I love skiing, that's my passion. And I had to get shoulder surgery, which kept me in Los Angeles, and I was hosting the Critics' Choice Awards in 2 weeks. So the surgery I was gonna have, and I had 2 weeks to kind of get myself together in enough of a place to host the award show. And I knew I could do it, and I was pissed because the infection was unnecessary. I got a PRP shot that turned into an infection. I didn't need the PR, it was all a hot mess. But even in and that was the most pain I think I've ever been in. And even at my lowest moment, I just knew I'm supposed to calm down. Like, I need this break. This is the universe telling me to just slow my roll. I go too fast and too hard a lot, and just take these 2 weeks, stay in LA, lie in bed, watch TV, ice your shoulder, get rid of this infection. I had a PICC line in my arm, was getting intravenous drugs every 24 hours with a nurse coming to my house. It was so miserable, but I was so happy. I was like, I'm gonna make this happy. And I would just, you know, obviously I had Vicodin, so that was helpful. It was. I'm not gonna pretend that wasn't. And I would just, it was so cozy and it was so calm, and I had no choice but to rest, that I just embraced the rest. And I was like, I'm about to go on this book tour. I'm about to publish my 7th book. I want to be strong. I want to be healthy. And this is the universe telling me to slow my roll. Like, you got to get healthy and better. And so I like that I'm able to take the bad situations and turn them around.
Yeah, I love that. It's so important. One of the things that the book makes so clear is that you are such an incredible friend to all the friends that you have in your life, and even tonight you've spoken about it, and you're a real sister, and you've spoken a little bit about that tonight too. What does being a good friend mean to you?
Telling people the truth, showing up when you don't fucking feel like it. Like, I'm so sick of people who don't do that. Like, that's what a friendship is. That's what a sister is. It's not supposed to be convenient. You know, it's not always what you want to do. It's kind of like parenting. Like, you don't want to have to do that every single thing, or take your kids to school or pack lunches. But if you're a good friend, you will show up when you're not in the mood. You will sacrifice yourself for other people. And I think that is it. When I see friends that don't really put other people first, or when people are really, truly selfish people, I don't have any energy for that. Like, I'm not a selfish person. And I always want to extend kindness to people and be generous. I always want to be generous, you know, even for a stranger. I want to always do something. And I know not everybody can do that or can be that way, but there's just something, I've always just tried really hard not to be a selfish person because I think probably innately that I would gravitate towards that. So it's been a fight since I was a little girl. But I think being a good friend really means putting other people before you in their times of distress and need. And just get your head out of your ass.
Yeah.
You know?
Absolutely. Yeah, I think a lot of people hide behind like modern day life isms and they're like, oh, I can't do this because I'm a bad friend, whatever. And there's just a lot of bad friends out there. And
yes.
you have to show up for people. You really do. It's just about consistently showing up. And, it's so important to do for the people in our lives.
Absolutely. I mean, sometimes I think people have kids so they can get out of doing things for other people. Like when people say, oh, I have to go home and I have to check. It's like, do you? Do you really? Because I would have done that if that was a good excuse. Like that would have helped me get out of a lot of things. Then maybe I would have gotten a baby.
Yeah. I know, it's not quite the same when I say I have to go home to my cats. People are like, okay,
yeah,
whatever,
exactly. I have a dog. I can't be like, Doug needs me. He doesn't.
There's a whole section in the book where you talk about how important it was to learn how to spend time alone, something that I'm working on personally. You even include some of your journal entries from quarantine. You write, the more scared you are of being surprised by how much you love being alone, I think of you as always being out there, always being, was that this right? Yeah, always being with people. What does spending time by yourself mean to you?
It's very joyful now when I spend time alone. Mm-hmm. Like I have a gas tank and now I know when it's empty and when it's full. And so it's really important to recharge. And when you are depleted, it's really important to know that and not overextend yourself and just fill up your tank, right? And I didn't know how to do that many times in my life for many, many years. So I think being alone is, there's so many people that are, I once dated this guy who could never spend any time alone. And I'm like, that is worrisome to me. I don't understand that at all, but I remember being that way. I used to have an entourage around me all the time. I used to travel with 15 people everywhere I went. And I didn't realize until therapy that I was just like that. Like when your life is that noisy, you're not being introspective at all. You're not thinking about who you are and the impact you're having. You're not reflecting at all because it's too noisy. So I think spending time alone and understanding what do I like? Like, I love reading books and I love skiing and I love smoking pot. How do I make those three things? If I can do all of those three things, what comes out of it? Mm-hmm. And beautiful things come out of that because those are the three things I love to do the most. You combine all of those three things. Like some people who don't spend time alone don't really know themselves at all. They don't know what to do when they're left alone. Mm-hmm. Like I always think if I were ever to live with a man, it would have to be a man that would be in the backyard when I came home one day and be reading books on his own. Like that to me is such a turn on, you know? Someone who could sit alone and read a book and focus on that is what I'm attracted to. And that's also the person I want to be.
Right.
So finding that time, being alone, which I talk about in the book, which was in Whistler and quarantine and out of therapy, is the most valuable time I've ever spent in my life, is the time I've spent with myself.
Yeah, yeah. And I bet you get a lot of your best ideas when you're alone too, like time to think, time to be inspired.
Yeah.
It's like, you need that space to be creative.
Yeah, and also just to be a hot mess. I spent 2 weeks in Whistler when I bought this little ski chalet in Whistler during COVID, right before the 2020 election, because I was scared that who was gonna win. And it's my birthday, we're not gonna say that name. And, And I went to Whistler and I had to quarantine for 2 weeks because the Canadians didn't want anything to do with us dirty Americans. And so I didn't want to piss off Canadians, I was like, I'm going to follow the rules to a T. I brought my 2 dogs, Bert and Bernice, up there. And I was washing my clothes in the dryer for the first 2 weeks that I was there. And I was putting laundry detergent, they were on top of each other, the washer and the dryer. And I would put laundry detergent in my clothes and put them in the dryer, and they'd come out tie-dyed. And it wasn't until like the fourth time that I was like, is this the dryer? I mean, I tried to cook things that nothing that I cook is edible. Like, if I go into a kitchen, I will ruin it, you know, whatever is happening in there. So even getting to know that about myself, like knowing not to put my efforts towards those things, you know? It's like turn and focus on your strengths. So like even that, getting to know yourself, it's like, that's not who I am. I'm never gonna be able to cook. It's not an interest of mine. Laundry is also not an interest of mine. But there are things I am good at, so I go in that direction.
I love that. Okay, I'll work on it. One of the things that you write about in this book is being open to love, making a list of the qualities you want in a partner, allowing yourself to love deeply, and then ending a relationship with dignity. What has being in love taught you?
Well, it's so fun to be in love, you know? It's so fun to get loved. Not smothered, but loved. And
oh, thanks. Okay.
Thought you were asking me to leave.
Oh, good.
And it's taught me that it's just a nice way to be, you know, to accept love and to be vulnerable and to be happy about being in love. You know, that can be really cool and not cheesy. I always used to be like, oh, I would never be like that. But once I experienced that publicly with Joe Coy, even though we're not together anymore, it opened my mind to understanding it's okay to be in love. It's beautiful and it's infectious, and you can infect other people with that kind of energy. So I'm totally open to love. And I want to be in love a million times over, you know, with lots of different people.
I love that. I love that. Okay, we have audience questions.
Love it, love it.
Okay. March is Women's History Month. As we approach March 1st, who are 3 women from history you'd invite to dinner? That's a great question.
Oh, Margaret Thatcher, for sure.
Love her.
I want to talk to her. Golda Meir. Margaret Thatcher, Golda Meir, and probably Catherine the Great.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. She's pretty kinky.
She's pretty.
Yeah. I love
I bet she can drink. Yeah.
Yeah, she drank, she partied, and she was definitely having lots of sex. And I like that.
What is your favorite memory from Chelsea lately?
I think a constant memory was walking out of my office down past Chewy's office every day on our way down to do the show. And when you looked into Chewy's office, all of his little shoes were lined up in his shoe rack, and he had the best sets of sneakers, and they were nugget size, you know? And they were all just arranged, and with all of his little golf shirts and all of his pants. And I would always just look, it was like my son was there, you know? And I just always would look in his room, and it always put a smile on my face, and then I'd go down to shoot the show.
I love that. Since this book dives into your recent breakup, what's your advice for navigating friendship changes and breakups in your 20s to 40s? Also, when are you running for president?
I already answered that question. I mean, I talk about this a lot in the book, and I think breakups are the opportunities are all, whether it's with a friend or whether it's with a lover, like it is such an opportunity for growth, and it is nothing to be scared of. Like breaking up, if someone wants space from you, give them the space. Don't ever resist someone saying, I need to get away from you. Don't hold on tightly to something that doesn't want to be with you, you know? You have to let people do their thing, and if you're ending a relationship, I've had so many friendships, and some of them have been acrimonious, some of them have been non-acrimonious, but either way, it's always an opportunity to learn more about yourself and to be gentler with the goodbye, to leave the door open instead of slamming it shut, and to be mature about taking that time and kind of understanding a version of yourself that maybe you didn't know before. And when you react to those situations in a more mature way, it's like you feel so good about yourself, you know? When you don't want to be vindictive, you don't want to be jealous, and you don't want revenge, that is so freeing to be like, oh, this guy just broke up with me. I mean, not really, but say a guy just broke up with me. Like, it's so nice to go, okay. There's so many, like, it's okay. It's not, this is the guy, this is the friendship. It's like, no, it's not like that. Like, the world is filled with surprises. So I just feel like we all take those goodbyes way too seriously. And sometimes they're a huge gift because what happens in their absence is a more important friendship and a more important relationship. So I would say to anyone who's having a difficult time ending something, like, look for the rainbows because they're coming your way.
I love that. What would you say to your 75-year-old self?
Oh, fuck. I would be, what do I say to my 75-year-old self? I mean, I hope that I'm skiing. I hope that I'm still drinking at that point. I hope I haven't thrown in the towel on anything. And I hope that I'm still a loudmouth.
Yeah.
I want to be like Jane Fonda.
Hell yeah.
When I'm 75.
She's amazing. What advice do you have for a beginner skier? What are your favorite mountains to ski?
Oh, well, beginner skier, like, you're in for a good, fun time if you commit to skiing. And you're going to fall and eat shit a lot, but you have to have a really good attitude about skiing. It's a pain in the ass to ski, put on all those clothes, wipe out, it's cold, it's unpleasant, but when you get good at skiing, all of those things fall away. Like, I get dressed every day to go out skiing, and like the clothes, that's nothing to me. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Because you just
Yes.
gotta get out there, and the wonderful thing about skiing is that you are so present. You don't have time to think about anything because you're trying not to die. And when you are present, like, the biggest moments of unadulterated joy are when you are present. And that is the other thing about turning 50, is that you are not worried about the past. You are not worried about the future. You are in the moment. And that is where the biggest bursts of joy come from.
I love that. It's your birthday. I know we're not saying his name, but someone asked, what's one sentence you would say to Trump?
I wouldn't. There's nothing I would say. I would just look away. Nothing.
Have you had a Jane Fonda type conversation with a friend?
Yes.
Wow. How did it go? They went well?
Most of them go well. I had one that went awry. But I mean, I made the effort, and I've made the effort with dozens of people. I really do. I take the time and make the effort, because when you can have that kind of impact and you want something, and you're coming from a place of love, really, there's no argument. It's nice that someone cares about you in that way. But yes, I've had one that went awry, and it didn't end successfully, and we're no longer friends, and that's really unfortunate. But I still stand by saying the truth, telling somebody that things are not working.
Absolutely. I think that's what it really means to be a girl's girl, is being able to say the truth to your friend and call them out. Because
and
otherwise,
to be able to have uncomfortable conversations, right? Like, when people are like, I don't like conflict, it's like, well, good luck.
Yeah.
In life.
Someone asks, where is Doug?
Doug is in Los Angeles. Doug was in Sun Valley for my skiing birthday video, which we released today on Instagram. If you haven't
so good. You have to see it. It's so hot. Tell us about making the video. Like, that's just, if you guys haven't seen this video, it's unbelievable. How many takes did you do?
We did 4 takes. I rented a mountain.
That's the level of rich that I want to be.
No, it wasn't like that. We rented like a run on a mountain, I think. But it's very relatable, I know. Doug and I flew out with like 6 of my girlfriends from Whistler, and my friend in Sun Valley, Lola. I said, can you get 20 women? Like, I want for my 50th birthday ski video to have just a ton of badass women skiing down a mountain in bathing suits, and I want like 20 dogs. Can you get 20 dogs? And they were like, she and her husband were like, yeah, we can get the dogs, and we're gonna rent a cat, and we have this mountain. Not a cat animal, like a cat ski, like where you transport people up a mountain. It's called a cat, where you put a bunch, like 20 people in a thing, and you shuttle them up the mountain. And I would never rent a cat or get one. And then like 2 days before we were filming, they called me and they're like, okay, can we lose the dogs? Because this is gonna be a shit show. And I was like, well, where Doug is coming, you know, I'm bringing Doug. And he was uncooperative again. And but we went to Sun Valley, and it was the first time I was able to ski since my shoulder injury, and I still had my IV in, and it was a mess. I had to ace bandage it up, but we did it, and every woman there was just like, this is so epic. Yeah. This is so fun. Thank you for including, I'm like thanking them for coming and skiing in this, you know, 10-degree weather in swimsuits. And they're like, thank you for having us. And it was just, it was another example of exactly what I love about life and what I love about women and how powerful it is to do stuff like that together and to like really lift each other up, you know, with the vibes. I want the vibes to be so high, you know? I want everything just to be great. And if it can't be great, then meet that moment and really, you know, help somebody to kind of get out of that funk. But you're creating such joy when you can do that kind of thing with other women and not just make it only about you, make it about us.
I love that. Someone asked if you could have a do-over, what would you do over?
A do-over. I mean, most of my relationships, my male relationships, like I would have gotten out a lot sooner from a lot of them. But I don't know that I would do anything over. I'd have to really think about that. I think that the mistakes are kind of like, I kind of welcome them. I have that attitude of like, let's go. I mean, you're not going to be successful all the time in everything you do. And I think one of the great character traits that people have is when they can accept failure and pick themselves right back up and go again.
I love that. Okay, last question. In the very first line of your book is, when I was a little girl, I spent large parts of my day dreaming about the kind of woman I'd one day be. Do you think that on your 50th birthday, you are the woman that you've always dreamed you'd become?
Yeah.
I love that. Okay, you guys, I think we have one more thing. We have one more surprise for Chelsea.
Is it Doug?
Oh, 1 second. I'm making it now. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Chelsea. Happy birthday to you.
I love it. Okay, I'm gonna make a wish. Hold on, what's my wish? Oh, I know what it is. Thank you, everyone. Thank you so much for coming. Thank you for being here with me tonight on my 50th birthday. I love you, and I'm so appreciative. Thank you. Thanks, Tinx. Thank you, honey. That was awesome. Thank you.